गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। आज हम बात करने वाले हैं ओवरऑलिंग डीआरडीओ। ये डीआरडीओ का ओवरऑलिंग में करना क्या है, और ये इम्पोर्टेंट विषय के बारे में बात करने के लिए मेरे साथ हैं वाइस एडमिरल रमन पुरी। सर, गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट एट द आउटसेट। Sir, welcome to Gunner Shot, and it's a pleasure to have you on Gunner Shot with me, sir.
Thank you so much, Shankar. Very happy to
Sir,
be on Ghana Shot on this subject.
sir,
Only I like to enlarge the thing because the aim is Atam Nirbharta, and I think we need to talk of DRDO
we'll
plus
talk
the
about
ecosystem around it.
we'll talk about it, sir. We'll talk about
Yeah.
it. Let me tell everyone about you first. मैं सबको बताना चाहता हूँ, वाइस एडमिरल रमन पुरी क्या है मेरे लिए। मेरे गुरु हैं ये सबसे पहले मैं इनका शिष्य हूँ। ठीक, वो हमारा जो नाता है काफी दिन से है, और आप सिस्क रह चुके हैं, आप डीडीपी में रह चुके हैं, आपने ये सीएनसी भी रह चुके हैं, वाइस चीफ भी रह चुके हैं नेवी के। तो और उसके बाद इन्होंने रमनपुरी कमेटी जो मशहूर है, उन्होंने ये बताया कि डीआरडीओ को कैसा बदलाव करना है, उसका ओवरऑल कैसे करना है। उसी के आधार पे काफी हद तक डीआरडीओ का बदलाव भी हो रखा है, और आजकल वो आप डीआरडीओ में हैं। और जब अभी 2 साल पहले मैं इनके साथ एक कमिटी में था टू ले आउट द फ्यूचर रोड मैप, टेक्नोलॉजिकल रोड मैप फॉर डीआरडीओ। ये चेयरमैन थे, मैं उनके साथ एक मेंबर था, और मुझे बहुत सीखने को मिला है इनसे। एंड these days he is working with DRDO, and he knows more about DRDO. Actually मैं बताऊं तो he's forgotten more about DRDO and OFB and all than we can remember. So to that extent, it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. I'm grateful that you are taken time off to be with all of us. Okay, so I'll just set the context in what we are this thing. We can talk. You can talk what you want, and there's no problem. Last week, हमने ये last about 10 days back with General Ahuja, we spoke about will overall in DRDO ensure आत्मनिर्भरता, क्योंकि आत्मनिर्भरता है मुद्दा। वो डीआरडीओ अगर बदलाव करना बदली, I mean, if you have to overall DRDO, we need to ensure Atmanirbharta. That's the thing. Otherwise, there's no point in overhauling it. Now, जब हम बात करते हैं इंडिजिनस डिफेंस कैपेबिलिटी बिल्डिंग इकोसिस्टम के बारे में, इसके मोटे मोटे तौर पर 3 हिस्से हैं। मोटे मोटे तौर पर एक हिस्सा है सर्विसेज, जो लड़ाई लड़ते हैं, उनका एक ऑपरेशनल पर्सपेक्टिव होता है, और वो एक अपना रिक्वायरमेंट देते हैं। इसके बाद डीआरडीओ आता है, जो रिसर्च, डिजाइन एंड डेवलपमेंट, टेक्नोलॉजी और इनोवेशन के बारे में डील करता है। दे डिजाइन एंड डेवलप द warlike equipment which is needed by the armed forces based on the requirements and the interaction from the services. उसके बाद whatever they develop is handed over to a production agency. It could be the private sector. Earlier it used to be OFB, but these days it could be any DPSU or anything, which produces these items in quantity in a most cost-effective manner with quality. So this is the major ecosystem which we are talking of. Also, when you talk of the defense technology ecosystem, हमें पता होना चाहिए DRDO के अलावा there are a whole lot of startups. There's the academia, ISRO, DAE, lot of CSIR labs, and collaboration and TOT through which you can get defense technology. इसमें सबसे मुख्य चीज है डीआरडीओ, इसीलिए मैंने इसको सबसे ऊपर रखा है, राइट। और ये काफियों का मानना है कि द डीआरडीओ इज अप फॉर चेंज। और क्या चेंज होगा, क्या ये आत्मनिर्भरता ला पाएगा या नहीं, यही हमारे मोटे मोटे सवाल हैं। इसी के बारे में बात करने के लिए आज हमारे साथ हैं वाइस एडमिरल रमन पुरी। सर, ओवर टू यू। You may please
Thank you
start.
so much.
And then जब आप खत्म करेंगे तो मैं मेरा अपना 2-3 सवाल है वो बात
No,
करेंगे फिर
as a matter of fact, as I put across some few points, if you think
sir,
there is something you want me to speak further or you have a different viewpoint, we can,
yeah,
we
we'll
quite
talk
happy to
about
go
it.
around with it.
Yeah, sure.
Now, when I come to DRDO, I want to first clarify this issue of, because everything depends on your understanding of what is the technology readiness level of mean and what is the technology readiness level available in the country. I'm not just talking in the DRDO. What is the technology readiness level available in the country for that product to be produced? And depending on the technology readiness levels, broadly one can assess what will, and the complexity of the system that you're going into, you can broadly assess what is the time frame that will be required for the agency which is doing design, development, and production. And also the costs in this game, I believe, no matter what you do, will always be tentative. Because you're trying to enter into a field where you do not know many things, and to arrive at that requirement, many times the hypothesis with which you start, you may have to change that also, and it happens. So, broadly speaking, there are 6 levels of technology readiness level. The first 3, which in case of a broad platform that has to be designed, it starts from sketch design, goes to concept design, goes to preliminary engineering design, then prototype development, which takes place in the lab or the facilities available within the infrastructure of, say, the DRDO itself, or maybe even using the armed forces infrastructure for the purpose. Then prototype production then takes place and trials take place in the field. Thereafter, you go into what we call qualification testing, UETs or whatever you may call it, UATT sometimes they call. And thereafter we go to, so 1 to 6, 1 to 3 is the process by which you prove the concept on a hypothesis that you have taken for that particular technology. Then 4 to 6 goes on at the system level when you start looking at how you're going to produce the prototype, what sort of trials you will do, and all that will be 4 to 6. Thereafter, we go on to qualification testing, which is level 7. Now, technology really lies in what we call know-why, really lies in TRL 1 to 6. Beyond 6 is you are tested a prototype and then it is going into production, and for which there may be some re-engineering being required for production. All that will take place, but that is more of a know-how issue. It is not a know-why issue. And to achieve Atmanirbharta, if it is the first 6 elements that are very important, if you because Atmanirbharta doesn't mean that you only have an equipment with you. You should be able to upgrade it. You should be able to do its lifetime support. You should be able to do obsolescence management. All this is largely not possible, especially in a highly software dependent systems today. No matter which system you take, it is software dependent. Even in an armored vehicle, there are a lot of vehicle electronics that go in. So all that is, and all that requires upgradation practically every 3 to 4 years. You will need to upgrade those things. If you can do it yourself, fine. Otherwise, you will go back to the OEM and do it at high cost, and there will be time that will be required. 7 to 9 is essentially the production stage. And here I would like to say, there is a difference between when you start doing this design work yourself between prototype to production and production to production. Production to production is a process when you are when you are taking technology from someone else, from maybe in a joint venture or whichever mode you do, which is basically license production, you will get the object not even at, because it would have already done its qualification testing in wherever it was. You will get that prototype in a finished form either at TRL 8. I mean, really, you will get it at TRL 9. It's been inducted somewhere or is about to be inducted somewhere. So the process of development, it is already completed. And it is very difficult to try and to get this, reverse engineer these processes today. Earlier, one could do it when most of the systems were analog. Today, with systems going digital, it is very difficult to even do reverse engineering of most of the processes. So, to achieve Atmanirbharta, in my view, you need an indigenously designed, developed, and productionized item. And in what layers it takes place, I will talk of. So, but in the services, the importance of 1 to 6 is very high if you want to achieve Atmanirbharta. And because the know-why remains in the country and adds value to national security. Otherwise, it remains with the foreign company and is a vulnerability, no matter from where you get it. Because geopolitics can change, as we have seen it changing so often, and can change on issues that suddenly arise. So it may be. And what further we find that if you have bought something, and this is something that I noticed when I was doing the quality issues in the ordnance factories, most of the quality issues were arising because they had taken equipment basically at TRL 9, and then with the production designs, etc., given, and the AHSPs were frozen at that point in time. They were frozen. Now, many times, the design of those may not be the design of those, whether it is the tools that you have used for manufacturing or whether the design of the quality assurance scheme itself. Broadly, they will tell you there will be quality assurance plan, but how to change it? If you are going to change what? So I found that in the heavy vehicle factory, there was a pump that they were using, which had become obsolete. Now it was available from the local industry, but to now induct it in the service required a whole lot of trials, and years had passed, and they were somehow doing, what we call jugaad and getting along with it. So my point is that we must understand these fundamental things when we talk of Atmanirbharta. Further, in the innovation process that we have for which Atmanirbharta is required, the process really starts from the long-term integrated perspective plan, of which, as Shankar was saying, I've been involved and for a number of laboratories together with him in trying to understand what is the technology readiness level of the breakdown of technologies. There may be 20 technologies before you can achieve a product. What are the technology readiness levels in each one of them? What is the plan to go up in those technology readiness levels? From technology readiness, normally you will find in DRDO labs, 1 to 3 is something that they outsource to the academia or to startups or wherever they would like to go. It is 3 onwards that the labs take on the work. And so you want to see at what technology readiness level they are. If they are at technology readiness 1 or 2, you can be rest assured that product is not coming out in less than 10 to 15 years. And that's about the minimum it will take. But if they are at technology readiness 4 or 5, you can say, yes, I should be able to get the product from them in maybe 5 to 7 years, sometimes 4. If there are a technology readiness 5 or 6 at times. Because I look at in your armored vehicles, well, whatever be the problems with the MBT, we will leave it aside. But a lot of technology gain has come. The net result of that is that today, if you want something, yes, if the design is given and what's called not the design, but the requirement is placed, and then it should be feasible to deliver this item in about maybe for 3 to 4 years even. Sometimes even for the light tank, I think it would have taken them only 2 to 3 years. So it depends on where is your technology readiness level, and that assessment has to be made. Thereafter, of course, you go on to TRL 1 to 3, where you invent, produce an analytical design, then go on to detailed design and test, then redesign to produce, which normally from prototype to production will be required. Although in concurrent tiering, which is the practice followed in DRDO today, this requirement is minimized because by the time you are sending something for field trials, it is coming from the production line. But even so, it will require some redesigning the moment he has to scale up production. So there will be time for all this. So time factor is something that we need to see, that if we want to achieve Atmanirbharta, we must issue our long-term integrated perspective plan, or you call it the capability development plan. Personal opinion is 10 years is too less for it, but because countries plan in at least 20-25 year time frame. Even companies are planned to have a 30-year horizon, people sitting. So my point is that this planning has to start much earlier. And with this planning, the DRDO should, it on its own can start doing technology development, analyze what system, but at each stage, even when he starts his technology development, because the onus of doing that work is his. But I think there needs much more of user interaction with them at this stage itself. Otherwise, you will come to a stage, you have designed all this, and now I mean, this will not do. It has happened in many cases. Sometimes it is DRDO's inefficiency, sometimes the correct interaction has not taken place. So this is the second point I would like to make. The third point I want to make is, there are certain, I feel, if Atmanirbharta is to take off, then there are certain, I believe there are certain changes that are required even in DAP 2020. The first change I would say is that this task of determining what technology readiness level who is lying is best done. I mean, if DRDO does it himself, he is part of the, should I say, I wouldn't like to, I mean, it's very unfortunate that we treat this scientific organization as a vendor. He's not a vendor, he doesn't get anything out of the production. He only is developing the commercial gain, etc., is all by the production organization. The organization, it's not a vendor. He is a designer basically. But anyway, he is now competing with the design capability, say, in an industry, because we want to go to industry also. So at this stage, if this assessment is to be made, where is the industry on the technology readiness level for that project? And where is DRDO? What is the availability of DRDO? In areas where, and this technology, I would like to call it, this actually, the Technology Assessment Committee, I had written a note on it and given to the then Secretary DP at that time also. It was converted into technology felicitation something. That doesn't work. I mean, once you have decided and then you try to facilitate it, that project, that really doesn't work, because A, the people change very fast, and this requires a bit of a long-term engagement. So there should be a technology assessment committee, which, and in each major vertical, say if you're taking your a gun type attack or whatever tactical gun system which you are now calling it, there will not be more than 2-3 industries which are there in the game. And this is worldwide. I mean, Europe, you probably have one, maybe two, France and maybe one more company at best. In the world, you will find maybe 2 or 3. So it is not something that we can't do. This technology, there should be a technology assessment committee, or you can call it a board, which should form subcommittees of experts in various areas which are there in your capability development, and decides who all are the who are the candidates for make process in this. Which is there industry, or has it to be a DCPP process? I mean, these are the two processes if you want to be Atmanirbharta. But if these two processes are not available, then you only got buy and make and whatever we used to do, buy zero make or buy make, but it should be classified under that only then. Don't classify it under IDDM and then have joint ventures in between. But joint ventures will lead to only license production, because it is difficult for any joint venture if the software is so high, the software intensity of systems is so heavy for you to be able to, even if he gives you all the source codes and the algorithms are there in the source code, is very difficult to, and it's a very time consuming process. If at all line by line somebody has to make you understand, it is practically a non-feasible proposition for you to get somebody's even source code and say, I now have the technology with me. It doesn't happen. You have to do it yourself. And so therefore, broadly speaking, so what do we, where is the problem area? I feel, we are not developing our capability development plans. I mean, we issued one 2012 to 2027. I can tell you that it is the basis on that 2012 to 2027 plan that this 152 gun technology development had started. Similarly, in your FICV, FRCV, technology development had started in the various sub-technologies that are required, in the various tier 1 and tier 2 systems that are required. That was also done in a DCPP process, but for those sub-technologies. But to produce a product thereafter, the DRDO system requires, and this is imposed by the finance, a firm requirement in the form of a GSQR, PSQR or something, giving, without this being initiated in time, that process doesn't start. DRDO can on its own do technology development, but the gun development will start because it goes beyond the finance powers of people in the DRDO, and even if it is within the financial power, there will be a lot of discussion that will take place that does the user want it at all? You're going to a mission mode project, so the user must say, I need this before I go. I don't agree with this, but this is the system today. And many a times, since we keep, we are at the stage of PSQR, GSQR. I've seen this happening when in 2012, I was doing new generation, seeing proposals for the new generation main battle tank. And for 2 years, I saw that proposal. Again, when I went to NSAB, these proposals were still going up and down. I think somewhere one has to decide that, look, this is my operational requirement. And now let's get along with whether you give it to the industry or you give it to DRDO, get a technology assessment committee to decide that issue. That technology assessment committee should have the capability to see what are the sub-technologies, critical technologies required to develop this. Who has got the capability? If that capability is less than TRL4 in any industry, it is no point going to them, because they'll, in that TRL 1, 2, 3, before they do, they cannot get there. But if it is available and you can judge the time frames, you can, by all means, I would say today, since the thrust is on private industry entering, please go, we should give. But if not, that same committee at the same time should evaluate the DRDO capability in that area. It may lie at TRL4, it may lie at TRL5. And now this process needs to take place. It does take place a lot of discussions, meetings, vagara, but ultimately the book says chapter 4 of DRDO process says the design and development case will be initiated by the service headquarters. So now, if that initiation doesn't take place, the development doesn't start. The system development doesn't start, even if they have the technologies available for them. And those technologies will lie in the laboratory. So there is something I feel that this must be understood by the whole ecosystem, and things must be put in time. So I would say DAP 2020 required the following amendments. If you have any question, I'll be happy to.
No, sir. The point.
DAP requires the following amendments. A, in chapter 2 itself, please state where you have said this, that IDDM will be so and so. This assessment will be done by a technology assessment committee or by its subcommittees. That is, and this will become of, should I say, domain experts in that area. It could be from services, it could be from retired scientists, it could be from ISRO. It doesn't matter from. But there, I believe in every area there are enough domain experts available in the country to do this assessment, and it won't take too much time. The second thing, in chapter 3, this issue of leapfrogging technology, which talks about make 1 and make 2, this whole issue of leapfrogging technology by JVs. If you don't have that technology, then go for buy and make. Don't call it IDDM anymore, because it won't be IDDM. It will be license production in some form, maybe with higher. And to specify indigenous content in terms of cost, again, I don't believe is correct. Indigenous content must be defined in terms of the technologies, especially the core technologies required. You can say for the gun, these are the 4 technologies. For a tracked vehicle, these are the core technologies. For an FICV, these are. I have done a great some work to say that if I want to design a platform like Rustam, what are the core technologies I must have? Where are they existing? Are they with HAL? Fine, go to HAL. Are they with DRDO? Or can we form a consortium within ourselves to do it? So that all those decisions are higher level decisions which should be taken. The third is in DAP 4. This design and development cases will be based on the discussions in the DPB and the recommendations of the Technology Assessment Committee, which could have service officers in it, which could have retired scientists in it, it could have serving scientists, whoever the committee, the board feels would be good to give them this unbiased opinion should be there. So this is broadly what I feel. These changes should be there before we can start talking about Atom Nirbharta. So many times this is not taking place because of these very things that are. Next, I will come. Right. What is my assessment of the capability in the country? In my opinion, we don't need to go anywhere for artillery systems. Yeah, बोलो.
May I, sir? आपने अभी तक जो बताया है वो you have said कि we need a great change in the DAP 2020. And you said so that is one. The second जो आपने बोला है कि there is a greater requirement of the services to form a committee which decides what should be done. The name for the committee is.
Committee need not be formed by services. It should be a standing board in the MOD, which will form subcommittees of experts.
That won't. No, that might not. Oh, okay, sir. That's structural.
I agree.
Ultimately, that's structural. But ultimately, what level of technology should be there in a gun and all, it has to be dealt by some expert committee of the services. On that, there's no doubt. And then you need to have the services have to initiate a case for design and development and a case. Otherwise, there's no start. And it is only after that that DRDO really comes into the loop. And in this entire process, it is not as if the services cannot do all this on their own. They have to do it with the help of DRDO. It's an iterative process and a collaborative process. That, sir, we have no doubt.
Pardon?
We have no on that. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
What
So
you're
we have to
suggesting?
do this. Now
No, no,
I will come down to.
एक minute, sir. We have no doubt. And I have a point of view on this. Whether you call it DAP 2020 or DAP, whatever the nomenclature of the document is. By and large, we have followed this methodology for all design and development cases, all D&D cases. As we have followed this, irrespective of which DAP is there, or what do you call it, that kitab. Because the DAP 2020 came after I retired. Before that, also we had a whole series of this thing. We have followed it, so it's not something which this thing. The more important point which you are making is the level of integration which is required between the services and the DRDO. I would like you to, highlight this because to me, having been in DRDO, having been in the services, having been in a bridge between the two of them as part of your committee and other issues, and having dealt with D&D cases, design and development cases, and having realized, let me put it, many people don't know, having realized a piece of equipment even before the project started. I've had this with Dr. Satish Reddy, you know it, in Pinaka. Even before we got the project approved, we had the equipment ready. That was absolutely ulta. It was something like हमने बना दिया
It
अभी
was
उसका
possible
कागजी
in
कार्रवाई
Abdul
करो.
Kalam's days.
नहीं sir, this was the time when I was a DGRT. It was not much before. I'm
No,
talking of
I agree with
2016.
you.
I'm
Yesteryears it was
talking
possible.
of 2016 की बात है sir.
आज मुश्किल है. Anyway, ठीक है.
The fact which you brought out, which such tickled me to talk like this, is how can we increase this level of cooperation between DRDO and the armed forces? Because this is the crux, to my way of looking at it, of ensuring Atmanirbharta.
I agree with you. See, the crux is that, there's a Japanese document which somebody gave me. He told me it is from the Japanese International Cooperation Agency. But I have not been able to verify that, to be very frank. But when I read that document, to me it seems to be there's definitely some Japanese agency has written it. Now, he points out the following flaws. He says he actually analyzes Department of Atomic Energy, Department of Space. It is called India Strategic Evaluation. Department of Space, Department of Atomic Energy, DRDO, CSIR, RDSO. These are the major, and among the academics, he analyzes TIFR. He says these are the areas who have got the capability.
So you're talking of this circle,
this,
almost.
He says, yeah. So in all this, he says that DAE capabilities are to take it from TRL 1 to 7, they are able to do it very well. In their own sphere, they are able to, if they have to do an atomic power station, they will make the power station. They are able to do it. But even they have difficulty in satisfying the relatively more less difficulty than what we have, but they have some problem satisfying the customer. Then it comes to Department of Space. They can take their project from TRL 1 to TRL 9 on their own, and by and large they succeed. But they succeed in most cases. But they are both these are dealing in a very specific sphere, in a specific environment. Then comes CSIR. He says he does only TRL 1, 2, 3. Thereafter, he has no capability to go beyond TRL 3. Which means he can do up to proof of concept, papers will be written, and that there the whole thing ends. There is a death valley between what he does and what the what I would say the user ministries want or the user industry wants. There's a death valley between the two. This is about CSR. RDSO, again, he's very he says very good, and he feels that RDSO engineers taking a product from TRL4 to its delivery are the best in the country. The RDSO engineers.
Railways ka.
Railways, but they are also working in a very, they don't work in any other sphere. DRDO, he says, is good at TRL 1 to 6, has got excellent multidisciplinary capability in multiple, and has to work in all three environments. The ability to satisfy to manage the expectations of the customer are not that good. There are reasons which is given, which on an open statement I will make. Someday you meet me, I'll show it to you. But I don't want to make that statement in this meeting. So my point is, second thing he points out as a weakness of the entire ecosystem that the armed forces have is the issue of standardization. He says we are very badly standard. He gives an example in the Japanese side. They make four LRUs for any product. 2 are in mill standard, which they use for themselves. 1 is in European mill standard, which goes for export. 1 is in commercial mill standards, which goes for dual use. But the same LRU will be used in manned, unmanned, armored vehicles, in their trucks, everywhere, wherever their power supply is what he's showing off. Many other systems, he says, with the result, their maintenance cost as a quotient of their total defense expenditure is about 8%. He says in US, it is about 19%. And Europe, it is 41%. In India, I think will be more. Because and the standardization, if it's brought out, is not feasible till you design yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
Not only you should be designing yourself, you limit the number of vendors.
I agree, sir.
I mean, it cannot be competition every day.
No, I agree with you.
We can't have a new RFI and then start competing. Because then technology will be developed, and then he also points out it is only by this limiting you can ensure minimum order procurement quantities. He says actually there should be more than the minimum, and you should ensure that the cost of ownership of that item with the industry is met. Otherwise, that industry sometimes will, through the life cycle, will pack up in some way. So these are the things which I don't think we are, in the whole system that we are looking at, we are not. Now let me come down to when I come to DRDO and when I come to industry. When I say you have a design, development, production capability, these happened at, I think, 4 levels. The first level is design, assemble, integration, and test. That I would call the system integrator. The system integrator must be able to design the whole system and also give the specifications for all the subsystems that major tier 1 systems that is going to have. I mean, what is going to be his track vehicle, what is going to be his gun specification, all those specifications, it is the tier 1 industry, the system integrator's job. And for this, I do believe that, I was looking at the staff requirement of the air defense system for the Type 45 destroyer. The requirement simply said that the ship should be able to protect units at a radius of 6.5 kilometers from itself against a simultaneous attack of 8 supersonic missiles. Then, of course, it goes on to other lines of development that are required, but those are in sort of training, in sort of simulation, in sort of logistics. All those things are defined over there. The size, weight limitations, and all that, those are all defined. But the system specification thereafter, this requirement is very straightforward. It's not too elaborate. The system specifications are developed by the designer. The designer must develop the system specification. And one of the things I feel whether it is DRDO private. In a defense contracting, we must get away from these gems. Nobody puts his RFI on a portal called for the whole world to see. I mean, I have known of a person who says that, all right, this is your next 10 years plan, just by looking at your tender documents and your RFI.
I agree with you.
So I don't, do you know what the Chinese are doing? Or do you know what the US is doing or anybody is doing? Nobody goes on the net for all this. You have a technology assessment system, assess all your technology, and there must be trust between the developer and the user. That what you're talking, this is a major area. I do not know how, I have no solution for it. Personally, I have worked through and I have had the greatest of trust on both sides, by the user side and the other side. But I suppose I can't give a full solution. You have also dealt, you will have some views.
I understand. So large, I mean, agar aap mere se puchoge, which is my conviction, let me be very honest and I'll speak my heart today. You see, it's not as if our DRDO is bad, it's not as if our services are bad. Right? Despite the best of this thing, I work with both, I have friends across the thing. It is just that there are not enough people who understand each other.
Quite true.
Right. I personally understood the DRDO very well because when I was a major, I worked for 2 years or 3 years in a lab. Right. And that helped me understand how a lab functions, what their capabilities are and what their culpabilities are also. So when I became a senior officer, I could, get things out of them to the best of my requirement. Right? And later, so 1 minute, let me finish. Later, when after service with you, I could even go to the extent of being able to guide them as to what they should do.
Yeah, quite true. They need that guidance.
And unfortunately, today they don't have it.
They're not users, they're basically scientists. And
yes.
You see, scientists abroad earlier, I mean, they come through. They have gone through World War I, they've gone to World War II, they've gone through so many conflicts. So they have a better idea what the field looks like. We have to give them that feel.
So I think, so, in fact, if you want Atmanirbharta, one of the things, in fact, this is what in the comments also bol rahe hain, you need to break these silos and build bridges.
Yeah. So this is one factor. So I said, what should the system integrator be able to do? He should be able to specify tier 1, tier 2. He should be able to make all those specifications. Some of those tier 1s he will do himself. Some he will offload to industry depending. And this, when you easily got the system integrator or whoever you call, must be able to build to requirement. The requirement is ship should protect 8 missiles, 8 supersonic missiles. He then works on that and makes out his system specifications. But he not only makes so he is able to build to requirement. Build to requirement means I've made the whole design. I have done the specifications of all this. I know which industry to go for, who's got at what level he is, and get him to make this item for me. For example, in a tank today, the best industry available to you for making, should I say, transmission systems is L&T. और किसी के पास capability नहीं है, ठीक है ना? So these assessments are not very difficult to make. Then similarly, you can say engine बनाना है तो कौन बना सकता है इसमें? So those tier 1 should be chosen. Then comes to tier 3. Each tier 1 will have 5-6 tier 2s. Some of the critical tier 2s you must be able to say that this tier 2 will be like this. Each tier 2 will have 7-8 tier 3s. So the ecosystem which goes is a massive ecosystem, and that's the second failing we have. And this is where I would say there has to be what we don't have in DRDO today, and I suppose it is because of the government policies also, and I suppose the services also we need programs and not just projects. IGDMP success lies because it was a program. There are a lot of common technologies that go into making missiles, like hardware in loop simulation, right? Many other such, you have been in that area, so you will know what are the test equipment that you require, which are very expensive to be set up, which will aid whether you are making a ballistic missile or you're making an air defense missile. Many of the test facilities will be common. So then the project is only needed to look into those which are specific to his project. But, and second, no project should be closed which you think you will, of a system that you will require even in the future, because you have gone in, because at that time you couldn't get, so you went somewhere else and you close this project. This happens. So once you close this, when you close a project, the manpower from there goes somewhere else, and large capability in an R&D system lies in the humanware. It lies in the humanware. It lies in the organization of that system. I call it humanware.
And so I want to highlight this, sir. Actually, आपने बहुत ही important point बताया, और इसके बारे में हम बात भी कर चुके हैं, पहले डिस्कस भी कर चुके हैं. We should not have projects, but we should have programs. Programs give you the ability to deploy your technology across projects. In the absence of programs at the macro level, because I was part of the IGMDP, I can tell you with this thing. Because whatever system you or say whatever propulsion system you made for one missile, if that missile didn't work, you could put it into the other missile. Or the failures of the propulsion system of one missile, you'd avoid it in the second missile. Or the successes of a technology in one particular missile system, you could port it to the other missile. And to be very honest, sir, this is the progress. This is the thing which I'm doing in IIT today. Whatever success I'm getting out of one project, I'm trying to port it to another project, to a third project, to make it a program. So I'm not bothered whether one project succeeds or not. I'm more interested in my program succeeding, because unless I have my program succeeding, I don't get macro technological view and I don't keep my manpower running. Because if I let that manpower go, I'm done.
You're done. So I'll tell you, a report which is done in 2012. I actually went to the Defense Secretary and I said, Mr. Mitra, we should. I think the study is required, but I would like MOD to sponsor it. I will do it free of cost. VIF has said we will do it. We don't charge anything, but you please set the agenda for this and take ownership of this study. We will not prepare. So I did it from VIF. It's a good study. Its study says make in India through R&D by DRDO stroke industry. Now, this is the only way you can do R&D. I can either do it here or you can do it in industry. Then the first part of the report highlights how must we set the requirement to the design agency. We have, whatever we may say, we have a lot of discussion, talk, walk, hoti rehti hai, but the clarity of what is to be done doesn't come out of a lot of talking. It has to be put down on paper. You got to do a feasibility study on it and see what are the technical difficulties, go back. It's an iterative process that will take place in the design agency itself. So my view is that setting the problem is between three organizations. The design organization, say DRDO. If it is an industry, then it is the R&D of that industry. For example, in HAL today, it's got a fairly good, I mean, if I was to go for a helicopter, I will straight away go to HAL. There's no other person who will design a helicopter for me. Similarly, if I have to go for a fighter aircraft, you'll have to go to ADA or koi jane wala nahi, but ADA will work very closely with the design centers that are available in HAL. If you don't see that whole ecosystem, the design capability is not there. I mean, converging the design to a prototype is not there. You have to have the AR&DC, you got to have the mission system R&D center there. So they have a number of R&D centers which are doing this. There's an R&D center for making these, should I say, your undercarriages. avionics. So all this, there are R&D centers within but with the industry also coming up, perhaps we can see what these R&D centers should do and what industry should be able to do. That is something that can keep going on,
No,
but it must be
actually,
based.
no. So what you have said is actually one of the major overalls of DRDO, which has to be done, where you need to have design clusters for a common technology and a common product and a common program orientation in conjunction with capable,
See,
producers.
the whole thing it will be possible if there is a technology roadmap that comes out of a program.
Correct.
See, today we don't have program.
No. So what you're saying is actually right. I mean, you are talking of a macro overall. It's not DRDO. It's not DRDO alone. If you are looking, the committee which is going to overhaul the DRDO, one of the things they have to come out with is how to do this clustering. How to get that clustering to run a program rather than a project. How to get the private industry on board
I agree.
in this
So
entire
today,
loop.
Shankar, I think I think that program, point is this, that everybody says DRDO should become DARPA. We must understand that is
and we should
DARPA,
not do it.
No, I'll just tell you. No, I'm just trying to tell you, DARPA is part of USD research and engineering equivalent of DRDO in the US. Okay? USD R&D is Under Secretary USD R&D is just like your chairman and Secretary DRDO. There's no difference between the two. He combines both the powers. He doesn't combine two nomenclatures, but he combines both the powers. Then under him is DARPA. DARPA's budget is 3% of the USD R&E's budget, which is about, I think last budget was about $112 billion. Uska 3% uske paas hai. And that 3% is more than R&D, DRDO's budget. So, we shouldn't be talking in the air. DARPA bana do. So within his capability that he has today, he has opened up, which has happened recently. I mean, this happened in the last 5-6 years only. It is not a very old thing. Centers of excellence in various IITs, IISCs, and other universities. There are, I think, about 10 of them functioning today, and I saw some very good work going on in IIT Hyderabad. So I think, these centers of excellence should, for that purpose, do this clustering that is required between the lab and the organization has been created, but it needs to mature further. That's what I would say. It needs to mature. Then the other thing, as far as TRL 123 work is concerned, they have got a research board called the ARNDB.
Yes.
Aeronautic Research and Development Board. But for the fundamental work done in this board, in the years 80, I think late 70s, it started off. Today we have got the design capability in helicopters. We got the capability for aircraft to make all the control laws, vagera. Infrastructure is something that we still lack. We still, for certain amount of work, have to still go outside for our trials, and that is time consuming. And actually, this Japanese report, if I was to read out to you, because I brought that damn thing with me, his assessment is, I tell you, his assessment is, test fee for key technologies have not been created. Especially, lack of testing, delays and testing and qualification of the technology, which in turn increases cost, budget, and increases the chance of technology obsolescence. And he refers to, in this, aircraft and marine turbines, submarine systems like AAP, although I think this is a little dated because now a lot has come up. Yeah. But he says this lack of infrastructure has resulted in delays of 5 to 10 years and an increase in budget for 200% to 1500%. So,
He's right.
it's so important that we have programs, only then we will be able to create this test facility. Otherwise, they will not come.
Yeah, we will not come. So
they will not.
I think
in that report that I've written, I'll send it to you. I have indicated, these are the programs we can start without waiting for capability development plan or any other. You need unmanned systems. Many of the technologies that go into unmanned system are common.
Actually, so I must tell you, next week I'm going to do a program on the requirement of testing, certification, and life whole thing with the Air Force officer, because that is our funnel. We get caught in that funnel of testing and creating capabilities for all our thing based on a program. So, with your permission, sir, I think we've had some very interesting talk so far. Because it's already we're hitting an hour. We'll take a few questions, and I'll get back
most
next
welcome.
week.
Any number of questions, I'll be happy.
Yeah. We'll take some questions, because people have come up with some questions.
And can be definitely.
Okay. At the outset, thank you, Tibetan monk, for your sticker. I'll go to Namaste, General Shankar Puri ji. 2004 to 14, UPA government destroyed DRDO, record non-technical recruitment, HAL, ISRO, Antrix scandal. Your thoughts, sir?
Frankly, I didn't want to say this because, this is an open discussion and I didn't want to bring this point up, but it's very true. Actually, this Japanese chap points out that the structure created by APJ Abdul Kalam was deliberately sabotaged by subsequent, and the method of doing it was by the earlier PMO of recruitment nahi karne diya. I agree there was some fault of DRDO in this, that they got sanctions and they used them very fast. When YGMDP was sanctioned, they used the entire sections very fast. So retirement ages also came fast. But what happens is, if you don't have regular recruitment in these organizations, you suddenly have a gap at the mid-level. And the knowledge, the seniors need to mentor the juniors. And I'm really afraid if they do not take some drastic measures now, in maybe 7 to 8 years' time, you will not find the type of knowledge base that lies in various clusters of DRDO that are there today. Actually, I agree with this comment of this gentleman.
I also agree with him, sir, because a lot of our problems, Kalbi, when I discussed this issue of, the 155mm guns and all that, aapne jo video dekha hai, one of the reasons why we didn't have fuses was the government interference. Completely. Nationally, we were sick. If that day, kal bhi maine bola tha, aaj bhi bata raha hu. If in the period around 2012, 13 or a little before that, if we had a war, we didn't have fuses to go to war. Right? And it was because of government thing only.
See, so let me just...
And if I may, a point which Admiral Puri made is very important. You cannot have gaps in recruitment. If you have gaps in recruitment, the knowledge doesn't seep through. And if that knowledge and maturity doesn't seep through, you will not have output. And our previous governments have been complicit, and in fact, I would say complicit in this nonsense. I only hope it doesn't get repeated. And this is one of the major overhauls which has to be done by this committee to ensure that doesn't get repeated. That's my view.
My point is that the last committee, actually Ramarao committee, the then Secretary DRDO refused to implement it.
So
he was actually, after he went out, the next person was given in writing that you will implement by the then Defense Minister, Mr. Anthony. It has actually largely caused a lot of inefficiencies in DRDO today.
No, I agree with you. So I hope this, actually what you're saying,
I sincerely hope that this committee now formed does not quickly change the relationship, do this, that, and create further
That's
problems.
I agree with you. So that's a thing. So the next question which is coming up is, sir, centers of excellence such as IITs, IASC, other Indian institutes should collaborate with DRDO, etc. for master thesis of students.
Yeah, I think, they have got a university. My problem with this university which they set up is the DRDO funds this university, but our recruitment process
Is
still
outside
goes
that.
on an open. I mean, you have trained a person in subjects to your requirements. It's like the space university, but thereafter you should be able to employ them, right?
Yeah.
Then you go for open employment. Achha, then open employment, I do not know why it is so, but I mean, I can't say we are a democratic country, so whatever the law says, it is good. Point is, we can't apply reservation criteria in a scientific organization.
So we have this problem. I mean, let me put it this way. So we have this problem in even an IIT about reservation and all that. But the larger point which he makes is, how do we coalesce or IITs and IISc with the DRDO is one of the challenges which these people have to make. And let me tell you, on a personal experience, I'm very disappointed that the DRDO is not as open with the IITs as it should be. This is my view. I mean, there's not a view, it's a felt view. I feel it, right? Whatever reason. And so there is a problem, this thing, which is coming out. I mean, today, as much as we have gone on a lot of things, certain important things are coming out of our discussion.
So let me give you the ecosystem that is trying to do it within DRDO, as I see it. Because I worked with their, ERIPR. As a matter of fact, the Naval Research Board, I was a founder member of the board as a rear admiral. And for 7 years, I was with that board. At that time, the problem was that when we went to universities and, basically stated a problem statement and said, would the professors like to take up? We'll fund these projects. One of the professors in the computer science department came up to me and he said, sir, you are very passionately doing what you are doing, but fact is, since we have given these chairs to various multinationals, IBMs and all that, the students are clearly told that if you work for DRDO, we will not give you appointment plan. So Naval Research Board had almost 60 projects running in IIT Delhi. We couldn't find more than 30. So my point is that, this improving ultimately we have to, but with whatever has developed, I must say industrial capability today is much better than what it was
yes. No,
in 82,
I have no
83.
doubt on that. No.
People say, why haven't you developed an engine? When DRDO started making your MBT, the industry in this country didn't make gudgeon pin for scooters. And you are starting making it was somebody who took, and they reached almost 1100 horsepower on that. And then because we decided that ye ab late ho raha hai, kharidte hain, wo project band kar diya. So this should never happen. Already you bought it. You will tomorrow also require this engine. So fortunately today they have gone back, and I think both the 600 horsepower and the 1500 horsepower engine in about 2 years' time will be a reality. 600 horsepower is already done, is Gen 1 test, and now it will be do the Gen 2 test and then go for field trials. But fact is that, more than this thing, we really need to look at our macro policy measures. If they are not straight, the down below is difficult to set straight. At the present time, I feel we have the capability to make. As you are, for guns, Shankar, I would congratulate you, frankly, because I am not saying anything because I know you, but I will congratulate you because you came, Dhanush became a reality. A-types started off developing. If you didn't come, these wouldn't have happened. I am very sure.
Yeah. That's a different story.
So these things can't be personality based; they have to be system based.
No, it can't be. It has to be system based.
And the system based. The only thing I can think of is the moment you think of a requirement, go to a technology assessment committee, which is neutral, and but with domain experts, interact with the service officers. They can do all that interaction. But then with their,
I
and secondly, any recommendation made by such a committee should not be subject to inquiry and all that after bloody 10 years. You know, with
that
hindsight, you can find many things that this would have been done, and that is what is happening today. A project doesn't succeed. Oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Arey yaar, chodo tum wo, most of the finance does not know how to support R&D. Finance can
that I
support
agree with you,
production.
but not
R&D को
R&D.
support करने के लिए you must be prepared for 70% failures,
Yes, I
and
agree
don't
with you
start questioning
completely,
when a
sir.
failure takes place.
Yeah, I agree with you.
In
No, I
in
agree with you, sir.
production, you can do
I
that because the item has gone through its testing, trials, all that it has gone through. You know what end product is going to come up. In R&D, you don't know what the end product is going to be.
No, I agree with you because I'm in that business right now. I know what's the story.
So the
Right,
finance
sir.
system for R&D has to be. I mean, I have had this experience with a private company also, which went into. He spent almost 5 crores of his personal money setting up this lithium-ion battery plant about 15 years ago. It's lying in Chandigarh because IDBI refused to fund him beyond his sanctioned 9 lakhs. I mean, 20 years old, 9 lakhs was good money. उसके ऊपर
So we'll ask
he had to
this
close down.
question. Impact of IIT drain on our defense R&D over the decades. How much did it set us back in years? A nation produces its best minds for its use, but our IITs take pride to do service for US, etc.
See, as in the Chandrayaan project, it came out. Most of the engineers which have worked on the Chandrayaan project are not from IITs.
Yeah.
Most of them are from, and if you go to a DRDO lab, the situation is not different.
Yeah, I
Other
agree
reason
with
for
you,
this is that you have a recruitment process which takes 1 year to give. I mean, by the time he starts interviewing people and starts giving his offer, it is more. 1.5 साल निकल जाता है. Which student is waiting for you? They already get placed, and so you'll get all the. But even then, I feel the Indian mind is such, they probably require another 2 years of hands-on experience, lot of mentoring, much more mentoring than a brighter student would have required. But even then, this reservation business, this recruitment policies, I think, there has to be much more decentralization. You got to trust those scientists. If you don't trust what procurement, he will ask for 5 this thing. The finance will say, why don't you take 3? Why
Sir,
not 2?
no, I agree with
I
you.
mean, these
I agree with
justifications
you.
are nonsensical.
I would like to give you and the entire audience a nice experience I had just 2 days back. There's one, I mean, this is the positive spin of the Gunner Shot channel which I'm running, and it's a fantastic thing, I must tell you. I got a call the other day from one of my faculty mates in IIT Madras. He said, look, based on this Gunner Shot channel and what you discussed, there's one student of mine. He's in this management computer science department and he's an expert in AI. There's one of my students who's doing his master's in USA. He wants to come back to India and start doing a PhD on a project which is for AI for defense purposes. Honestly, sir. So this faculty of mine, this professor, he said, sir, अगर मैं उसको बुला लूंगा इधर तो क्या will it be useful for us? Because I don't know how to get a project. I don't know how to do. So I've told him, I'm not joking, sir, I've told him. I said, उसको बुला लो. मैं project दूंगा उसको. I will give a project for multi-data fusion, AI based. And we'll use him. So it is not as if our people, it is not as if our people don't want to do so. The best of our minds and our boys want to do
No,
it, and our girls also.
see,
And we have to make it for them happen. That's my
see,
view.
my point is, in the defense especially, by and large, till today, we have been doing joint ventures only. And even today we are doing joint ventures. Many of them are joint ventures, which I don't call
Yes.
IDDM. IDDM must
No, no,
mean
they,
in this. So
or your own
if you
design
do
and
these joint
development.
ventures, then there is no technology development taking place. You require
You have to go from
PhDs.
grassroots.
PhDs do R&D. You don't want for production. You don't want a PhD. You need an engineer. So the problem is that till we go for R&D to prototype, accept R&D to prototype to production, and understand that prototype to production is a difficult task. It will take
No,
time.
we do that kind of. It will
And
take time, sir.
we know that, but a prototype ko clear karte, I would rather give that. I mean, I inducted Sangra in the Navy. Which EW system has led on to many other programs. I did not insist on anything more than 70% fulfillment of my QRs. I said,
I agree with you, sir.
You are not running away anywhere. We'll improve them. Today, we are better than anyone else I would say, I don't want to be too superlative about it. We can meet our requirements in EW across the board, including development of super. So you trust that fellow, उसने 70% कर लिया, वो 20% रह जाएगा.
I agree with you,
होता
sir.
रहेगा. But so I have seen, I have specified, so much rate of firing in 60 seconds. No, it has come out in 67 seconds and 70. And this is an observation. And then you keep going on with that observation. Please tell me, when you said it 60 seconds, what was the bloody logic? If it comes to 45 seconds, what is the logic? What will you, I mean, if you can quantify it and say, okay, my CEP will go wrong so much, and therefore the destruction, we must be able to do weapon effect calculation at that. Who does this weapon effect calculation? There is, you will have to go to TBRL and do it, or probably somewhere else. But I have not seen this happening. I have studied in the USSR these subjects in great depth. They do all this work before they start specifying. So my point is that we need, today I feel the only way to go about Atmanirbharta is all armored systems will be IDDM. All artillery systems will be IDDM. And IDDM means indigenously designed, development, and then produced. I will have a pathway for items which are for example, I don't have an engine, so I'll get an engine, but I'll have a pathway indicated as to how I am going to develop that engine. In the contract, I will have it. And there will be a penalty if I don't complete it. So I'm just saying that till we have this forced thing, basic design must be yours. If you don't have that design, you can't do anything else yourself. After that,
completely.
After that, if you've got the specifications, you can keep replacing all the equipment as you do. For example, ATVP, I think is a very, A, we require programs, B, we require program managers. For example, ATVP is managing a program of all your nuclear submarines. Now, my point is, you needed that organization. Yes, it has taken time. First of pipe will take time. There will be ups, downs, but fact is, we have been able to go to sea. The second ship, even the platform management system, we have been able to make. And that is about the most complicated system you can make on a submarine. But when it comes to conventional submarines, we must have 75 India. Why?
So we'll leave it at that.
You see, this business of Atmanirbharta goes into our blood. I feel sorry for it because Mr. Manohar Parrikar actually said, please start your program, the development program. But he unfortunately gave this decision. Evening he got transferred to Goa. After that,
that's how politics.
These sort of things, the Atmanirbharta must be in the blood of the people. They must be genuinely wanting it. The mindset has to change. That even if I can get a thing which is 60 to 75%, even of equivalent to a foreign, I will accept it because I know I will beat it in future. You see the combat management systems today of our submarines that we have made. They are better than anything you can get. And a combat management system must be based on your tactics, on your theory, on your doctrine. You can't get it from anywhere in the world and say this matches my doctrine. Nahi hota hai.
Right, sir.
I mean, if you didn't
So
develop your own artillery command and control system and got somebody to do it for you,
no,
you'll
we
never
did
get
it
what you
from
want.
scratch. No, we
You'll never
got it
get
from.
what you
We
want.
did it
So
from
these
scratch.
are the
We did
things
it from
that have
scratch.
to come. It has, I must say, artillery has done very well. Okay, but I can't say that for the rest of the Indian Army.
Oh, it's okay, sir. That's a bad thing. So last question
I'll
we'll
be
take.
very
Last
frank.
question, sir.
I can't say that because I don't see any reason why we should be issuing RFPs for FICV. There's no need for
Last question,
I
sir.
mean, anywhere where foreign collaboration is required, you don't require it because I can do the design myself. And I can guarantee, I don't mind being, because I've done these long-term technology plans and I've been in the consultant to MOD for a year and a half, and I've got to each laboratory, sat down for three days to understand kya hai. I'm confident that you give your FRCV requirement. Why it is called FRCV also I don't understand. MBT को FRCV क्यों बनाया ये मेरे को समझ में नहीं है. Because there's nothing future in it.
We'll take this last question if you don't mind,
can
sir.
be indigenous. That FICV can be indigenous, and FICVs, for example, are always in a family. You'll have so many classes of other vehicles in that family coming out. There will be load carriers, there will be ambulances. So if the design is common, only then you will have standardization. If you buy something from somebody, your standardization is gone for a 6.
Right,
you will not be able to put your own processor. This is something that we have to learn. And finally, I would like to quote what this Japanese document says. He says, and I like what he has said, but I don't know why this is about the Indian. He says, two things. He says that India and Indian policymakers should adopt fight with our own weapons or lose the war strategy, instead of fight with others' weapon and win the battle, and in the long run still lose the war strategy. This is the only way to. I mean, I can see Ukraine. If anything goes beyond certain amount of time, you will require affordable weapons, affordable bloody ammunition. The Russians are taking out T-54 tanks now to fight. We don't have a policy on mothballing. So anyway, this is the only way to create impetus of Indian weapons. Indian weapon systems are fairly robust and excellent in a performance to price comparison. It is advised that the Japanese self-defense force should consider sourcing Indian aircraft systems in volume.
Yeah, I agree with them completely. So, if with your permission,
no
we'll
air
take the
defense
last
systems
question.
need be imported today. No artillery, of course, no need to import. There must be IDDM, no JVs. Similarly, all your should be all your armored vehicles. Small arms, there has been enough of bloody confusion. And enough of, I've seen that from my CISC days. Okay, that is a bloody area of bloody confusion that we have got. Why we changed to 5.56? Because NATO changed. Now we want to go back to 7.62 because that is, you had a very good 7.62 weapon. You could have done anything with it. Uska weight reduce kar lete, jo karna tha kar lete. You didn't have to go to 5.56, and I don't see why we went to 5.56.
Right, sir. So we'll take the last question. We'll take the last question.
My time is free.
We'll after that this thing, sir. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it next week sometime. We'll do again, sir.
Okay.
LCA Tejas first flight was in 2001, but UPA 2004 to 14 did not do anything. Neither did any defense purchases. Modi finished Tejas project. It's a bit of a political statement.
Let me just say on LCA Tejas. LCA Tejas project was the DPR for the project was sanctioned in 1983. Okay, only DPR. We had no wind tunnel. We had just one small wind tunnel in Indian University of Science. We had no aeronautic faculties in this country, except a small faculty in Indian University of Science. Kanpur came up. I think in Chennai also, Madras also, a faculty has come up. Okay, a lot of infrastructure had to be created, and a DPR means a design, a preliminary design, and a detailed design, and a detailed project report thereafter made. It took them 7 years to do it, and that's the time it will take anybody to do it. So in
Yeah, there's no doubt.
1990, they gave this report to the government and to the Air Force. Because I have gone through this period, the reaction was, how can we give 4,000 crores to DRDO? So what was given was 2,000 crores. You make a flying platform first. They had given a period of 8 years. They will give the flying platform. So in 1993 end, the final go ahead with 2,000 crores was given to ADA, and the aircraft flew in 2001. Not very bad. You gave 7 years. 7 years. The 8th year the aircraft was flying. Thereafter they started weaponization. Something that could have gone on in parallel went on in series. Okay, so then this weaponization took place. Uske baad, certification process of an aircraft is a very complicated process. And when you're doing a first of the type, I would advise whoever asked me that question to read that book by Air Marshal Rajkumar, who was director ADE. He's written a book, Tejas. He said we were so careful in our work. We went so much step by step so that no accident takes place. Because you're very clear, if one accident and there will be enough voices in the media and everywhere else, close this project. There are foreign lobbies working over here, and I don't think this is a secret with anybody, who are ready to say something or the other on your systems anytime. So this will happen. So they were very careful not to have an accident. And today, I have known of fighter aircraft which have had 30 accidents before they started doing they got their FOC. I don't remember offhand, but it is there. P-15 missile, when it was developed in USSR during World War II, they had a pilot sitting in the bloody warhead cabin and taking off and bloody landing the damn, because they couldn't afford to fire these for test. And they had accidents. So my point is, we have to be realistic in our assessment. So to 2007, and then they opened the flight envelope very slowly. So a lot of comments would come out with my colleagues in the Air Force at that time when I was as deputy chief, and again when I came back as CISC. Oh, this is a good, comfortable aircraft, but its angle of attack is only today. Its angle of attack is more than what your MiG-21 will probably give you. But they opened it very slowly for a reason. Every time they opened little, they took all the test parameters, modified all that, flew again. So the first of the type, but LCA Mark II won't take you so much time.
Yeah, I agree with this. Even AMCA won't take us so long.
We should know, because LCA Mark II is being designed from a technology readiness level of maybe 5. So it will not take you so much time.
Even AMCA won't take you that much longer. That's the
even AMCA won't take you so much time. And AMCA design, I am told, is extremely good. And I have got a lot of respect for the designers who are sitting in. I was disappointed when the Navy cancelled LCA Mark II. Just imagine, today we have 2 carriers bloody naked. And they will remain so. So my point is, this is the issues that I wanted to say, that look, for Atmanirbhar requires not just reorganization in DRDO, it requires reorganization of a mindset first, that I am going to be Atmanirbhar.
Right. I think so. You made a lot of points today. I'm very happy that I brought you on Gunner Shot. I look forward to this once more sometime next week, because next week I'm going back to the Army headquarters and I'll come and have a cup of tea with you. It'll be on 5th evening. I'll come to you, sir.
I'm not there on 5th and 6th, but 7th I'll be there.
Then when next I get back,
or I'm there on the 4th, I'll be available.
4th night I'll be reaching. 4th night I'll be reaching. And I must tell you, sir, I will make a thing, sir, because self and Professor Ramakrishna are coming, and I must tell everyone
No, I
in
love to meet
open,
Ramakrishna. I have a lot of time for. I love to
sir,
meet him. He's such
and
a humble person with so much of knowledge in his head that I
sir,
really,
and
I feel very happy seeing him every time
we are going to
and
put the
listening.
next generation. We are going to put the next generation technology into our old Grad BM-21 rockets,
And that's a
which will,
beautiful thing to do. See,
yeah,
upgrading what you have got, and ultimately in a war, I tell you, we will require very low cost systems to be able to fight anything more than 4 a month.
yeah.
उसके बाद
And
आपको
I
जब
mean,
तक
this upgradation, sir, is going to be quite revolutionary because from the present range
No,
of
I know.
20
I have
kilometers,
heard that your presentation, तो वो ठीक है. That will happen. I have no
it
doubt
will
it will
happen.
happen.
It will
I
happen.
doubt it will happen.
And
We can talk
so,
about, because I also deal with startups. We can talk about the
so we'll talk
startups
about
because
this.
startups
We'll talk
really
about this
are
when we
at
come,
the
sir.
TRL 3, 4 level. They are not
Sir,
at TRL 1 and 2 because they don't do fundamental
yeah,
work.
naturally.
They
Yes, they
convert
don't have the
applied research
capability.
3 and come to 4. So they need funding from 3 to 4 and again need funding from 4 to 6. If you don't give them that funding, they'll be taken over by the Chinese or by the Americans, and you would have done all the legwork. And that is happening
I
today.
agree. I agree with you, sir. And thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, sir, for this wonderful talk. I see a lot of people who are very happy with what you have spoken. Biswajit Sen, he says, this is the last thing which I want to say. Uh, ये कहाँ आ गया? हाँ, अरे, it's not, for some reason it's not coming. I'll just speak out. It's come. Admiral sir, my regards for such a wonderful discussion. And then this is another tongue in cheek, but it's something which we must see. देख लो sir. अरे, हाँ, नहीं, एक minute. I'll just show this. Yeah, he says, uh, I thought generals gave long answers. दोबारा दिखाता हूँ मैं. I thought generals gave long answers. Admirals give even longer answers. That's a nice one. Huh?
Admins go into a lot more details.
Admirals go into a lot more details. And then, of course, sir, he says, then thanks to General Shankar for bringing effort of bringing back our best minds to Bharat. Well, we don't have a choice otherwise, right? And so that's it, sir, for today. And thanks a lot to the audience also. We'll come back and we'll talk about it more because there are more issues to it. Like I said, next week I'm going to talk about with the Air Force officer the requirement of testing facilities and certification facilities and creating facilities for
I think
research.
you can,
There's
we'll see if
something
you can get somebody ex-Semilac, he'll be able to tell also.
we'll do that. We'll do that
You can get
because unless we open
aircraft
up,
test facilities and all that, because they
we'll
do. Or
we
somebody who has been the AFTC, Air Force Test
so
Establishment.
he's this Air Force. He's an Air Force officer, sir, and he's at this point of time.
Yeah,
He's
and I
also
just asked if
with.
somebody from NFTC is prepared to come. See, problem
I'll
is that people in service are not likely to come.
no, we can't, sir. We
They,
can't. Anyone who's
yeah,
had
because
experience
they
in that,
can't
I'll
express
welcome
their
him.
views in an open manner. So you're
Open,
likely to
like the
get
way you
people
and
who
I
are
are
not in
doing.
service.
Yeah, I think so, sir. With this, sir, thanks a lot for today's talk of yours. It was very enlightening. It was very enlightening to all the audience also. Thank you, sir. Good evening and Jai Hind to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and Jai Hind.